You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. I don't know where that... It's always a yawn every time I do the intro. I don't know if it's because I take a deep breath before I start or what, but it's always a yawn. 608-501-0718 is the number to call. If you want to call in, new callers go to the front of the line. So we have just enough, presumably, depending on how long-winded, but we have 10 calls to get through. I plan on getting through all of them. And then, as per usual, because the game is tomorrow, wait on your calls until the game starts, because anything before that, it's going to be a little iffy as to whether it's going to be relevant after the game. So just wait on that. All right. Let's get started with Drew.
Hey Ryan, it's Drew from Green Bay, and
What's
I
up?
wanted to talk about the injury topic a little bit. Like, I think it's a complicated topic, and you do have to look at it a case-by-case basis. Like, I don't think you can create, like, a universal definition of this is what makes a guy injury-prone and this isn't. But, like, some principles are that the body is interconnected. And so if a guy is constantly getting injured, even if it's different parts of his body, there is a much higher likelihood that there's something in his preparation or in his playing style or whatever, than that it's just random chance.
It could be. I would pare that down just a touch. Like you said, it's case-by-case basis. And that's kind of the question. Is it just all these injuries? Like you said, it's interconnected. So you can't just say because they're different parts of the body, it's not the person, it's just bad luck. Well, it might be the dude's body sucks. You know what I mean? His muscles are tight or something. I don't know. But if you get hit smack in the head and get a concussion, it's not really... It doesn't give me any reason to believe that you're going to have more injuries in the future necessarily, except maybe concussions if it's something like that. I don't know. I do think it's probably pretty complicated in terms of some things might cause other injuries that you wouldn't necessarily expect. We know about some where it's like if you're hurt here, you favor over here, it could cause injuries, blah, blah, blah. But I do think there's the possibility, at least, because we know there are fluke injuries. There is the possibility that somebody ends up getting a bunch of fluke injuries and ends up being okay. In fact, I saw somebody posted an article. I think Mike Wall was one of those. I don't remember that, but I saw somebody posted an article. I didn't read it, but I have it saved for another day. But presumably he had suffered through tons of injuries, seemed like he was never going to be healthy, and then came back and was completely fine and helped us build a dominant offensive line that went on to do great things.
And that he's just unlucky. Like, look at Jordan Love. You could say that all of his injuries last year were completely unrelated, but I would argue that, it started with, early on it started with his MCL injury, and then they rushed him out, and then that led to the groin injury because he was running awkwardly, and then that led to an elbow injury because he didn't have mobility and took a shot and got...
That's probably a little bit of a stretch. I mean, first of all, he didn't get the groin injury right away, so rushing back wasn't really part of it. This was several weeks into this, when presumably he was feeling much better. But I think it was pretty well established or whatever that we all felt the groin injury was tied to the knee injury. The elbow injury, I think that's a pretty big stretch. I think that's an unrelated injury that it might not be, but I think, again, I would say that's a pretty big stretch.
Had the elbow injury late in the season, and that's all interconnected to, initially having the MCL injury and playing on that. Your hamstrings are connected to your ankles,
You gonna sing the song?
so if you're constantly, you're getting hamstring injuries, and then all of a sudden you end up with an ankle injury, well, that could be a sign that your hamstring is a little weak, or that can go up to back problems. I mean,
well, even the Christian Watson thing, right? I mean, he had hamstring injuries, and it was because of his, I think, a muscle discrepancy in his legs. That, you know, one leg was stronger than the other. It caused different problems. So yeah, it can be that. It doesn't have to be that.
I've been through physical therapy, and they did a really good job explaining that. And I was getting constant ankle injuries. I would just walk and just twist my ankle randomly, and the physical therapist fixed that by strengthening my hamstrings, making them more flexible. And so I do think when a player gets hurt over and over and over, you can't just say that's just chance. The people who say that they're injury prone, to me, more likely to get injured in the future, are more likely to be right. But to each their own, I guess. I just point to biology and the interconnection of the body. But I'll leave it there. Omar Brown, a little unfortunate with his lung. Hopefully he gets better. It'll be interesting to see if we put him on the IR or not. But yeah, anyways, have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, and I think what you said in the beginning is, case by case, but point taken as far as, we think about injury prone a lot of the times in terms of you come into the NFL with this sort of weak, defective body, as opposed to you got an injury and that may be causing more injuries, and we're kind of in this downward spiral of now it's going to be hard for you to not get injured because you're coming off of this injury and that injury, and because you haven't been working out, there's this misalignment and that and all these different things. And maybe they don't pay enough attention to that of before we get you back on the field, you have to go through this physical therapy thing. You have to go through a strength and conditioning regimen to make sure that your body is strong and strong in all the right ways and strong in all the, it's not enough that it's just you don't feel pain there anymore. We got to make sure that the muscles and all the little interconnected muscles in between are all back where they need to be because you risk re-injury. And, you worry about that with guys like Watson because as soon as he's ready to come back, he's going to come back. And I do think that they're probably going to prolong it. Like we talked about, Jerry Rice came back shockingly fast, got injured again. I think there's a reason that there's a gap that he probably could technically come back and play today if he needed to, but there's a minimum amount of time to make sure that you go through all these different things. Hopefully that's part of it. He's going to go through and make sure that everything is strong here and there and all that stuff. But it's still going to be tough, especially when you've been out for a while. You see in the preseason how everybody gets hurt all the time because your body's not conditioned. And so you're going to get mid-season a guy whose body is not only unconditioned from the beginning of the season, but hasn't done anything in the offseason, hasn't done anything since mid-last season. And doesn't mean he's required to get hurt. It's going to be harder for him to stay healthy for a litany of reasons, which is probably pretty unfortunate when you start going down that path. It's kind of a hard spiral to get out of, but we'll see. I don't know. I can't definitively say that a guy like Marshawn Lloyd is never going to be healthy or Christian Watson's never going to be healthy. Again, I think the benefit with Watson is that the issue that he had for a long time seems to have gotten fixed. I mean, who knows long term how long, if he would have been that way forever or what, and then there was one of those sort of freak injury type of things that happened that wasn't the initial issue, that I don't think had anything to do with the initial issue. But I don't know. We'll just see how it goes. I mean, there's nothing, and that's the other thing too, is you can't even, if what we're talking about is what we're talking about, you can't even draft for that. You can get a perfectly healthy guy who tweaks his knee, and now he's going to be having injury issues for the rest of his NFL career. I don't know what you do about that. But I do think it makes even more sense when you look at that pile of corners that we were all frustrated. Why didn't they draft any corners? Every single one of them had serious injury issues. I understand just staying away from that. Don't jump in the middle of somebody who's already in that injury death spiral.
Ryan, what's up, man? Kyle from Madison. How are you, buddy? We are getting closer, depending on when this airs. Going to the preseason game on Saturday, so I don't know if we'll get on the air before then or not. Probably. sounds like that's going to be a lot of Malik Willis, and then I would imagine they're going to try and settle that third quarterback battle in the second half of that, but I guess we'll see. So that Colts game happened. You know, preseason games, I'm always super excited, and then they happen, and I end up like kind of on the iPad doing stuff in between plays, and just kind of take in the big, you know, things that happen. Which, by the way, maybe this was a big point of discussion this summer, and I just missed it, but I was just scrolling through the pro shop while I was watching the game, and I am so excited for that throwback uni they're doing this year. I've been wanting them to do like a mock leather helmet for decades. I didn't imagine they would have executed it as well as they have. So I am so excited about that. Just as a side note, maybe I don't know what the conversation has been about that, but personally I think that is just amazing.
I love it.
And just totally unique. And I'm so glad we're the first ones to do that because we need to roll that out like a lot. Very cool. A lot of conversation sounds like about Escalade and his penalties. I'm not going to even, a couple of them ticky-tack. I don't know. I actually liked some of what I saw out of him. So I'm going to just reserve judgment on that. I'm not going to put too much stock in one preseason game. But it dawned on me, though, this year, it's possible that the Packers actually add 3 first-round talents to the roster in a meaningful way this year, meaning Golden, Morgan, who was basically redshirted because of injury, and then I know Van Ness has been on the team, but you know he definitely was drafted as a developmental player.
But has he though?
I don't want to jinx it, but the news has been pretty positive that he's been progressing. And I was just thinking about like, wow, if that happens, there's not too many teams that have that kind of convergence of just developmental guys, redshirted guys, and then maybe guys ready to play. And I'm just, from what I've heard about Golden, and considering kind of the trend of receivers kind of being a little more pro ready, I think maybe Golden, he didn't pop till later in the season in college last year, but it's not out of the realm of possible that all 3 of those guys are big contributors this year. So I'm excited. I'm ready to get going, and let's just get out of this preseason injury free and get guys healthy, and let's go beat the Lions. Talk to you later.
Yeah, we definitely been talking about the leather helmet thing. I was talking about it mostly prior to them doing it because I had seen that somebody mentioned that they thought that that's what was going to happen. And I mentioned that I'm not usually into this whole thing. I don't care. I don't find it interesting. I don't find them usually very appealing. The whiteout thing, I guess, was fine. They usually grow on me, as I mentioned before, because the Packers usually win. It's because they're home games, I think, a lot of the time. But, you know, it becomes a thing where you see that uniform and it means this was a good day. But this was different. And I had even said, kind of like you were talking about it, I mean, if they do this, I'm going to be all in. I'm going to be super all in. And they executed it exactly like that. I hope that they would. I mean, they got the stitching on there and just all the detail. It looks beautiful. Just absurd. Yeah, the Van Ness thing is funny too because what the heck was it? Somebody posted. I don't know what happened to the guy. He's becoming super negative and whatever. I don't know. It's very weird. But he had posted on a clip where something very positive was happening. I think it was the pick. It was the end of the Seahawks practice where Williams came over and picked the ball, and he posted that video and said something to the effect of like, what am I supposed to be excited about this while Van Ness is getting dominated by a tight end, which I was talking to my half Mexican attorney about this. People who find any reason to just be upset, even when good things happen. Like I said, the AI thing drives me nuts where it's like, isn't this amazing? Like, look at me, stupid game. Oh my lord, video games. Like, it's the greatest thing in the world. Somebody's like, it's glitchy. Always whining. Just drives me insane, you miserable frickin' losers. What was I talking about? Oh, so yeah, it's a great play. And then you go in the comment section, and I swear these people have not been paying attention to training camp. But this guy was a bust. It's time to move on. He needs to go. We gotta get. What are you guys talking about? He's been the best player we've had this entire offseason. and you see a play for 5 seconds where he doesn't flatten a tight end, and he needs to be cut, and I can't even celebrate the interception anymore, and it's just this misery fest. Like, what is wrong with you frickin' people, dude? I swear. I don't know that it's going to translate to the regular season. But if there's anybody outside of Matthew Golden that you should be excited about based on the offseason, it's Lucas Van Ness. But he wasn't perfect every single time. He didn't win every single time. And I found a video of one time where he wasn't winning, and that's it. Now he's the same guy, because he doesn't win every freaking time. I was reading the comments, like, what is wrong with everybody? Like, I don't understand. First of all, why does this post even exist? And then the comments, just miserable. The best player we've had the entire offseason has been Lucas Van Ness. The most consistent player every single time. We had a training camp practice. He was out there making plays every single time. Unlike literally anybody else. Just had to get that up. You mentioned Van Ness, and I'm also excited and hopeful that he can take a meaningful step here. I'm hoping everybody can. I mean, as I pointed out before, toward the end of the season, everybody seemed to be moving in that direction. Everybody needs to take a sizable jump from, the average of what they were doing last year. But if Van Ness can do it, considering he was as bad as he was, considering how good he was at the end of the season, considering how good he looks right now, could make a pretty sizable difference. Kyle, part 2.
Hey, it's Kyle again. I just want to call back in and vent about, two things. One, I was just mentioning the convergence of first-round guys that could all pop, this year.
Yeah.
And then, of course, though, if Edge Cooper takes another step,
I don't know where he can even go.
Just if 3 of the 4 guys, maybe that's asking a lot. I don't know, but I feel like there's some glimmers there. I don't think that I'm being total rose-colored fandom kind of guy, thinking it's possible. If that happens and you get a guy like Valentine takes a step forward, and then you have Love just play a bit better and stay healthy. Let's just remember. I think and I do this too. It's easy to engage in revisionist history here. Oh man, the Packers sucked so bad against the Eagles. Yeah, they did, but can we just remember again the first freaking play of that game? How pissed off we should all be about that. The non-fumble because Keyshawn Nixon is down. Mm-hmm. Then the clear recovery by the Packers, both of which are not overturned. Give the ball to the Eagles on the 28-yard line?
Right.
Spot them 7. Look, they went on to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the Packers are the best team in the league last year, but was it a couple months ago when you kind of did that retrospective on Love? Because it is easy to kind of think oh yeah, he didn't play very good, but then you go back and look at actually when he was on. That second Lions game, man, had we gotten a call or two, which I would argue that we should have had in that last Lions drive, we win that game in Detroit. Okay. And I just felt like the wheels kind of fell off just a bit early on from a psychological standpoint against Minnesota the next week. And then I don't know what the hell the LaFleur was doing with that Bears game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which really impacted things, It's like either go for it or don't go for it.
Exactly.
You kind of go half-ass, and then you lose a guy, and that was a psychological gut punch to lose Watson. Despite all of that, if the first play, if we just aren't straight up screwed on that first play of the Eagles game, that game got closer. I know Barkley laid down at the end there, so the score maybe isn't indicative, but look, the way our defense played, we were in that game, and that's the team that went in and steamrolled the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So I think, there's a whole group of fans who just take a deep breath. I'm not saying we're going to win the Super Bowl, but let's not pretend like we were 1,000 miles away either, right. Even playing with some deficiencies last year. So anyway, talk to you later.
Well, and that is an annoyance that I have with the negative fans who want to pretend that the Packers were really not a very good team, which is silly. Oh, really? Why didn't they beat any of the good teams? They did beat the good teams. They beat all of the good teams. They just didn't beat this mega elite teams. All right? That's it. And that's the difference. And I went through that whole episode where Aaron Rodgers has never beaten a team as good as the teams that we lost to. Those, 16, 14 win teams or whatever. Never. So it's this desire to believe this negative thing. There's just this constant desire to believe it and want to believe it. They weren't that good. They almost got swept in the division. Okay, but we're talking about 4 games, right? Which apply to that 14-win thing. Okay, so we're still kind of talking about the same thing. The only other game was a Bears game where we had an injured quarterback, pulled our guys halfway through, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, oh, it's a fingertip away from being swept. Bro, the Bears game was just as close in the other direction, you frickin' moron. Not to mention, we almost won all those other games. So why are we just focusing, oh, it's just a fingertip, it's just a fingertip, it's just a fingertip. The Bears won by a last-second field goal when our starters were sitting on the bench, you dummy. So, I just frickin', you know what? Fine, believe it. They're terrible. I want you to believe they're terrible. And I'm just going to keep throwing all this back in your face as we continue to win games. We're going to win games, we're going to win games, we're going to win games. All these people who are whining about they were never that good, they're overrated, they're an 8-win team, fine. Believe that. And I'm going to mock you and ridicule you nonstop. And again, I'm telling you, one of these days the Packers will win the Super Bowl. And I will make it my life's mission to make sure you don't get to enjoy it. That everything good about that team that won a Super Bowl, you complained about it the entire year. Because there's never going to be a year where the negative fans come in and they're like, this is it. This is the team. This is the perfect team. The GM and the coach did everything right. This is the team that will win a Super Bowl. They're never going to do that because they're negative. It's just what they are. It's what they do. And again, it's just a defense mechanism because they're worried about being hurt by the team. So they put up this wall. Well, they're not good enough, and then when they win, it's a sigh of relief, and it's, oh, well, good. I mean, you're lucky you won that one, but we're not going to win much more playing that way, I'll tell you that. As if the Packers' job is just to please you. I'm sorry, Father, I'll do better next time. Oh, you better do better next time. Like, just go away. Go away. We're not your therapist, okay? Go deal with your problems somewhere else. Speaking of going away, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got Daniel from California.
Ryan, I need to cut it out. So you got Jeff Hapley, right? And I got 2 cousins that are Vikings fans. My brother is a Rams fan. And I've been sending all these messages about Jeff Hapley and everything like that. And just the way I'm describing him, he might end up on an FBI watch list. Because I'm saying stuff like he's a madman. He's going to empty the clip this season. So hopefully everybody keep an eye on Hapley and make sure nobody comes and snatches him up, because the things I'm saying about him, they sound like he's like a terror, a menace to society. The guy is like dropping linebackers into the center field in the preseason. He's a madman. He's a loose cannon. Who knows what he's going to do? So they're using the keywords. The FBI is listening to Jeff Hapley. Hopefully those guys aren't Lions fans. Hopefully those guys aren't Bears fans and passing on the info, because he's a madman. They think he's a terrorist.
You just had to say that.
Hopefully Hapley's safe. Go Pack Go.
Yeah, I was worried about losing Hapley. I never expected it would be like this, but appreciate your transparency on that.
Hey Ryan, it's Drew from Green Bay, and you were talking about the viewership of like the Stanley Cup and all of that, and yeah, the NBA and the NHL, in my opinion, are run horrendously. And one thing I never understood about the NHL is apparently I think the Stanley Cup was in like June or something like that. Like, who wants to watch hockey in like June or July or whenever?
This is a little weird.
I think that they should have the Stanley Cup in March, and get it after the Super Bowl and before the draft. And I don't know, it seems like a sweet spot in there when it's still winter, but who knows? I'm sure they have some stats on why they don't do that. I mean, that would mean that their Stanley Cup playoffs leading up to the finals would be competing probably with
you don't want to compete with the NFL.
NFL Super Bowl and playoff games, but who cares? I mean, it's really about the final Stanley Cup, in my opinion. But anyways, if we, I'm a little curious about Bo Melton and the cornerback situation. What's kind of funny is, like, you can argue Bo Melton's our fourth best cornerback, but you could also argue, like, he won't even make the roster.
Sure.
That he's, like, our seventh or eighth best cornerback. And, we have, like, Kalen King and Corey Ballantyne and Kamal Hayden, and all these guys are, like, in the mix. Micah Robinson, they're all in the mix. They all have their different benefits, but Bo Melton's, I think he's the most athletic of the bunch, but I do think that he's behind mentally. I did see where it looked like he was asking what his responsibilities were on a couple of plays in preseason, and it seemed like he was asking where he lines up. So that just tells me, like, he's not even close to ready, and if you want him to be your first guy coming in, if we have an injury, it's kind of scary. But I don't know, I want to cut him when he's got, some team might say, hey, we want him as a wide receiver, and revert him back to wide receiver. So I think we'll put him on the 53, and then, probably put, like, Kalen King or someone like that on the practice squad, but it's going to be a tough battle, and it'll be interesting. That's probably the most interesting battle to watch in this final preseason game. I know a lot of people like that running back, Abudagumda, or however you say it. I butchered his name, I know. I'm not a fan. He's
Part 2. I will say on Bo Melton, I'd be pretty shocked if he didn't make the roster at this point, just based on how much the Packers love that guy. And I think his athletic upside is a big part of that.
Drew from Green
and special
Bay,
teams.
Part 2. Sorry about that. 3-minute monster got me. So yeah, the Abudakunda, or however you say his name, the running back. I'm not really a big fan of his, to be honest. Like, he has some physicality, but I kind of feel like he doesn't have very good vision, and he just kind of runs wherever, and it's sometimes there's like it looks like there's a big hole, and he doesn't see it. I don't know if he's just going strictly to where it's designed to go, whether there's an opening or not, and or what. But I would much rather. I don't even really want him on the practice squad, to be honest. I'd rather have, like, Johnson, or maybe get, like, someone from another practice squad. I'm not a huge fan of these running backs. I'd like to, let's shop around and see who gets cut, and, like, bring in another name. And, look at how we got Brooks. We just shopped around, and all of a sudden he's clearly, our third best running back. I am worried about cornerback this year, though, if we have no depth, it seems. But who knows, maybe someone will emerge. Offensive line will be interesting. Laceda Smith.
Let me pause you here. As far as running back, Amar Johnson is the guy that makes the most sense. I mean, since they've established Chris Brooks seemingly as that next guy, it kind of comes down to Amar Johnson, Israel Abanikanda, and Tyrion Davis-Price. I like Abanikanda. I think he's been relatively impressive, but I also, you mentioned abused running backs. I think the Packers operate that way in terms of, your value is going to be diminished if this is your third or fourth stop. They've had great success bringing guys in, and that, didn't necessarily have success elsewhere. And he's not old. 2023 is when he first came on the scene, so this is season 3 for him. But when a rookie UDFA comes in like Amar Johnson and looks like he looks, you start getting excited because you never know. With Abanikanda, and I didn't correct you on his name because I know I don't say it right. I don't say it how, but that's how it's been burned in my head since he was a draft prospect, so that's what I call him. I think, you bring him in because you want to see what he can do and you're intrigued by him. And I like him. I think, like you said, he's a strong runner and I think there's some positives there, but it's really not even close if you asked Amar Johnson and Israel. First of all, because Amar, I think, is ahead of him, period. But also when you look at not just the fact that he's younger, but the fact that who knows where his upside is. He's the next best guy, probably better so far this offseason than Chris Brooks, probably better than Marshawn Lloyd, which is unfair because he hasn't really played much, but still. And the fact that he's a rookie and anything can happen, it makes the most sense. However, there's always the caveat that I don't actually know what the Packers think of these guys. Maybe they're not very impressed with Amar Johnson. Maybe they are enamored with Abanikanda. I have no idea. But that's the way I would lay it out for sure, is Amar Johnson. As far as going out and finding other guys, I mean, yeah, maybe. But I don't see that being too much different than bringing in Israel Abanikanda or bringing in Tyrion Davis-Price or whatever. The only difference being we're not going to really get a chance to look at them. Whereas these guys have had a lot of opportunity. I mean, there will be time later. Gutekunst always does a good job of churning the bottom of the roster throughout the season. But when you're talking 53 cutdowns, I don't know that I want to give up a spot that we've watched a guy to go just, grab some random guy that we haven't really had a chance to get our hands on at all. Maybe if you just don't like the guys you have, period. Like if Amar Johnson's just been garbage and Marshawn Lloyd is on PUP and, you got your... I mean, there's a scenario maybe where we just don't like anybody, but generally I wouldn't really want to go that route. All things, I mean, you never know. I mean, there's always a chance that somebody got cut that's just a stud, and they're like, holy crap, that guy's going to be significantly better than the ones we have, fine, but probably not. They might really like the idea of somebody, but without knowing for sure, it's kind of iffy.
I heard he was actually playing pretty well, and he's like a guard center. And then you have Trey Hill, who's a center but older. And the question is, like, with Monk not playing well and he's got the hamstring, who do we put on the who's our backup center, and then who's going to be on the practice squad as a center? So I like that Lacita Smith has guard center versatility. So I kind of think that he'll make the practice squad at least. But anyways, I'll leave it there. I don't think we should keep Isaiah Simmons either. He just is showing nothing. But let's see what I would much rather have like Christian Welch than Simmons. But anyways, thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, I agree with Simmons. I mean, he's a guy that I understand wanting to bring him in and see if you can make it work because he's got all the tools and intangibles. But ultimately, with some guys, when it's a mental thing like that, it's not schematic. There's no schematic thing you can do when they just can't mentally get their head around the NFL game. And it feels like that's just kind of where he's at. And I think there's some guys that are just that way where it's just not clicking. I don't know if the game is just too fast for them or what, but they just can't seem to get it. Maybe they're not putting the amount of work in that they need to grasp things properly. I'm not sure, but I don't really. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done a 53 yet, so I don't want to say anything definitively. There's a world in which you might want to, but at the same time, I mean, he's at best a fifth linebacker. Do we want 5 linebackers? Maybe, but I would rather give that fifth linebacker spot to somebody else. I mean, granted, 4 is just one backup technically. Now that we're a different style of defense, maybe having that, I don't know. You can call up somebody from practice squad if it becomes a big deal. I think you could make an argument maybe that fifth spot. I don't like it because I do think he's a massive liability, especially in coverage. But I don't know. I mean, I don't want to overhype Christian Welch either because he had one good game. Christian Welch, I really don't think is going to be a good football player at all. I don't think we have anybody out, beyond McDuffie and Hopper, which even those guys are kind of question marks. I don't know how much we actually have. So maybe taking a flyer on Simmons if they've identified a couple things they can do with him that work. But leaving those couple caveats aside, I tend to agree. I don't see the point in keeping him.
Hey Ryan, Drew from Green Bay. I guess I'm gonna do part 3.
All right.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, if we potentially trade for an edge guy, like Micah Parsons or even Trey Hendrickson. If we were to do that, and I know that's a big if, it probably won't happen, but I think a key piece could be Rasheed Walker, because I think Jordan Morgan has now shown enough that we can count on him to be the tackle of the future. The problem is if you trade away Rasheed Walker and then Morgan goes down, now what do you do at left tackle?
Mm-hmm.
Because our depth after that is pretty shaky. I think, do you put Belton at tackle? Do you move Elton Jenkins to tackle? And then now you have to find a center to put in. But I do think that, the Cowboys need, my understanding is they do need a tackle and they need a wide receiver. If you wanted to go crazy, we have a left tackle to spare, and I think we do have wide receivers to spare that we're not going to sign them all, and they're getting towards the end of their contract. So would we trade like Rasheed Walker plus Romeo Dobbs, who has health issues? We don't know if we can count on him, and then sign our other guys. Then we're relying more on guys like Wicks and Watson coming back, and Golden and Savion Williams, and then if we need to throw in a little draft pick as well, we could do that. But like Dobbs, Walker, and a draft pick, I think that could get it done for Parsons. But question is, like, do we want to take that chance with tackle? So, what do you think about that? The problem, another problem is a backup tackle doesn't affect the field at all. They don't play, whereas a pass rusher can rotate in when you don't have the injuries. So, Lucas Van Ness would be a rotational guy, and you'd have Gary and Parsons playing full time rather than just having like Rasheed Walker playing and Morgan as a backup or whatever. But anyways, have a great day. Bye.
Well, as I said before, you always got to increase the pain if you're going to do that. I think if you were to make a trade, it wouldn't just be those two guys and maybe a pick. You're looking at, for a trade like that, 2 firsts and a third or something like that, plus the contract. And, obviously Dobbs and Walker, which LaFleur has basically already said Dobbs is not going anywhere, so stop saying that. So Wicks and Rasheed are not worth 2 firsts, right? And so you can't just pair those two with a third and call it good. You pair those two and it's still a first and a second or something, So Rasheed Walker, Wicks, first round pick, second round pick, maybe that gets it done, but the whole thing on top of that, they're not trading them. So it doesn't matter. We can package whatever we want, and Dallas is going to tell us to go shove it, which apparently is what Mulugeta told Jerry Jones to do. But I talk about this, pretty much literally the entire podcast tomorrow. Go through all the Micah Parsons stuff. But that's the other point of it, is it's not a matter of go get somebody. There has to be somebody available, and I don't think Micah Parsons is available. Well, I don't think we took the second break, and we only have 3 calls left, so let's do that. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan, TJ from Alabama, listening to, the Micah Parsons talk. I'm not even going to really get into the Trey Hendrickson thing. I just don't see that happening. I don't see the Packers giving the value that would be required, and then also paying him the contract for a 30-year-old player, yada yada. So we'll just talk Micah Parsons. So I haven't done the exercise. I'm not necessarily asking you to do the exercise, but in my head it's like, okay, looking at the Khalil Mack and that value where a couple first, but stuff came back to Chicago and yada yada. So just kind of trying to make it easy and saying 2 first-round draft picks, and maybe that's not enough. Maybe it's 2 first-round draft picks and not Rashawn Gary. I think that's a little bit whatever, but just focusing on the 2 first-round draft picks. So other than taking out the Jordan Love draft pick, because it's a quarterback, and Jordan, I believe he is going to be an excellent quarterback for us for a number of years. So, other than removing the Jordan Love pick, is there any 2 consecutive first-round picks that we have had since Aaron Rodgers was picked that we would not trade for Micah Parsons? Like the last 2, and Matthew Golden obviously is the new golden child for, pun intended. So Matthew Golden and Jordan Morgan for Micah Parsons, would we do it? I think the answer is yes. Go back the next two, Jordan Morgan and, whatever. Is there any two consecutive draft picks, first-round picks, since the Aaron Rodgers was selected, other than take Jordan out, is there any two of those picks that we wouldn't trade for Micah Parsons? And, at the time, Micah Parsons, 26 years old, with his resume, and at that time with those two players. And I didn't go through the exercise, but I was just, in my head, which I should have gone through the exercise, apologize. I was just listening to the call, and then it popped into my head, so I called you. But in my head, I can't think of two first-round picks in any consecutive years since Aaron Rodgers that I wouldn't trade for Micah Parsons. But that was it. So I'm kind of all on board. If it would happen, no, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd be on board. That's it. Go Pack, go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that only goes so far. I mean, you can't build a team that way, which is part of the problem. You build a team through the draft. You could try it if you want, but it ain't going to go very far. You're not going to have much of a team. You're not going to have enough money either. But, given the situation where it would be an extremely rare thing that you would do something like this, I think it would and could make a good amount of sense if it was, two first-round picks and then some. And I think the Packers would pull the trigger on something like that. Ideally, these are very late first-round picks that are essentially second-round picks anyways. But, again, I think it's because I spent all day talking about it. They're not gonna trade him. He's gonna get paid. He's gonna stay in Dallas.
Hi Ryan, it's Randy from Minnesota.
Yo.
Just want to share my thoughts on this whole Micah Parsons thing.
All right.
One thing is, I think there's an elephant in the room that hasn't been discussed, and that is, do we really think Jerry Jones would trade Parsons to the Packers? I mean, we made the man cry.
That's true.
On that TV show. You just got to believe his whole distaste for the Packer organization after how they broke the Cowboys would prevent him from agreeing to trade Parsons to the Packers.
It's probably fair.
The other thing is, for me, I think the idea of giving up all that capital for one player is nuts. I don't want to give it up. I don't want to be tied to that contract, which is going to be huge. I've said this before on this podcast. People who are really pushing for it, go back and look at what Green Bay did to get John Hadl, the quarterback from the Chargers, back in the mid to late 70s. It destroyed the franchise for several years. And I don't want to go back to those days. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt and hat. Don't want to go back. But anyway, I'm really glad you're going to take some time off of this podcast thing, spend time with your family. As much as I enjoy listening to it, I'm glad you're taking the time away and going to do what you need to do with your family.
Appreciate
Have
that.
fun, and look forward to hearing you when you come back. Anyway, that's all I got. Go Pack, go. Bye.
Well, yeah, and that is another component. I mean, we always assume that the draft picks are unknown, but Micah Parsons isn't. That's not really true. We've seen many times where guys go to new teams and they're not as good anymore. I mean, who knows with the, change of scheme, change of whatever might end up being a negative, or maybe he just gets older, maybe he gets hurt, or whatever the case may be. I mean, there are variables here where you're giving up a lot of resources that normally are spread out, which is a way of being more secure. You don't have all your resources, including multiple picks and all the money and all that stuff on one guy, so that if something happens to somebody, it's not as catastrophic as You give away all those picks and everything else for Micah Parsons, and his play declines, or he gets hurt, or whatever the case may be. It's catastrophic at that point, because you're not getting a refund. You know, that money is gone. Those picks are gone. You're not getting them back. And, you know, you watch those picks go to reinvigorate Dallas and give them all this stuff. It's just, it could be a pretty devastating thing. So it is worth considering. This is not a guarantee, as much as we might want to pretend that it is, that you just get peak Micah Parsons for the next 5 years. Maybe, but I don't know.
Yo, Brian, it's your Uncle Rico.
What's up?
What's happening? It's Friday.
It's payday.
Friday,
Everything gonna go my
Friday,
way day.
I don't know. We play the Seahawks tomorrow, I guess. I don't know. I was just reading some internet thing about how the Packers passing defense was struggling against the Seahawks, so in joint practice. So hopefully that's just nothing. Then Sam Darnold was playing well, and of course JSN was playing.
Well, I think everybody's playing that up like, oh, we got carved up. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a good day. Darnold really didn't look very good. In fact, Vikings fans are out making fun of him for how he looks like crap now that he's not a Viking, based on that practice. The Packers' offense also decimated them. So it's like, you know, oh man, all the Jackson Smith and Jigba highlights kind of gave the impression that they just cut through our secondary and our secondary sucks. And it's like, well, one guy had a good day. Did you hear about anybody else playing well? I didn't really. Could you name any other wide receivers? I don't even know who else they even have. And Jigba's a very good player. He kind of broke out. He's a tough guy to cover, all that stuff. You know, when we're watching highlights of Matthew Golden carve up their secondary, not too many people out there going, dang, their secondary must suck. Look how good Matthew Golden. It's the same thing with Golden. So it's just, or in Jigba. So I don't know. I mean, it was very up and down throughout. I mean, the Packers offense, I think in the end, the defense kind of suffocated them. But, you know, there's so many different. You got first string, second string, third string. You got 7-on-7, 11-on-11, 1-on-1, red zone, all this different stuff. It's hard to say definitively that, you know, yeah, we just lost all the time. I was like, that's definitely not true.
Well, and the Packers were not playing well. But
no, not what happened.
I guess we'll see tomorrow what happens in the game, and then maybe not even then because it's preseason. But the real reason I was calling is Malik Heath. Everybody's always going on about Malik Heath and how his catch rate is good and that, you know, he should get more opportunities and stuff, I think is basically it. I'm not even sure he's going to make
If you're attributing that to me, that's not ever what I said.
the team, honestly. Probably isn't. I don't think he's going to make the
Probably
team.
not, no.
Maybe he is. I don't know.
A lot of
anyway,
receivers.
In the playoff game last year, didn't he, like, drop everything? Like, potential touchdowns even? I'd like to go back and rewatch the game. Honestly, I don't even know the best way to do that. But in my memory, he was worthless when we needed him. Am I wrong? I just remember watching that playoff game and it was like, well, he's had to play a little bit of a role there because our receivers were down. I can't remember all the details. I just remember in my mind that Malik Heath had opportunities and did nothing with them.
Well, according to PFF, he had 0 drops all year last year. That was kind of the point that I had made about Malik to begin with. So he did play in the wild card game against Philly. He had an increased role week 18 and in the wild card, like you said, probably because of all the injuries and whatnot. There were 3 targets, 0 receptions, but according to PFF, and that was probably one of those things where there's a big divide in terms of was it a bad throw or a bad catch. According to PFF, again, 0 drops. So they're attributing those to bad passes by Jordan. I think a lot of fans didn't want to attribute anything to Jordan and are more in line of if it's anywhere near you, it's your job to catch it, which I don't fully agree with. I mean, yes, to some degree, but you can't have a quarterback playing like crap and just blame the receiver for everything. You have to give them good balls to catch or there's going to be more drops. That's just all there is to it. So you are probably remembering semi-correctly because it was 3 targets, 0 receptions, and I'm sure you were pretty pissed at Malik. And again, if I go look somewhere else, it's probably counted as a drop somewhere else. Let me see about, let me look at the NFL thing. Because I remember they were very different. I thought PFF was a little bit more droppy, though. Maybe I'm not remembering that right. Doop-de-doop-de-doo. Take your time. I haven't been here in a while. It's good to be back. NFL Pro. I'm about to give up on this in about 10 seconds. I swear this is so stupid. It's like I log in, like, okay, cool. Here's some stats. You want to see them? Yeah, let me see the stats. And then it pops up with a message trying to sell me a subscription with a message on top of that that says, good news. You already have a subscription. It's like, I know, get out of my way and let me see the stats. So I click on it and it's like, would you like to upgrade to your account? No, I don't need to, remember? I already have it. Why don't you go manage your subscription? I go check. Sure enough, yeah, I already have a subscription. So what are you talking about, stupid? Well, I don't know. It's just got me in this freaking death loop. They're telling me to subscribe, and then when I click subscribe, it says you already have an account, and then I go to stats because I already have an account, and it says, oh, you need to get an account, but then it says you have an account, so I don't know why you're here. Freaking absolute idiots. Anyways, there's your answer, kind of. Let me see if I can just go back through without the advanced thing and just go back to that game if they have drop stats in there. Nope, it doesn't. So, anyways, there you go.
Like, what good are you if you can't come through in the clutch? So, got any insight on that? That would be good, buddy. Thank you, and have a great weekend. Enjoy the great weather and the Packers final preseason game. Go Pack, go. Rico out.
I don't know if this is some kind of a stupid clear your cache thing or something. Let me try the old F5 here. I'm really not wanting to give up because I want the answer to this. Oh, I think that worked. I think that worked. All right, receivers, wild card. Where's the drop stats? You can't tell me I did all this work and you don't show drops. They do have catch percentage and catch rate over expected, which you could kind of translate. Catch percentage obviously is 0 because he was 0 for 3, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's his fault. But there is catch rate over expected, which was a negative 66.6%. So it would seem to me that they attribute some level of responsibility to Malik Heath, which I think is probably the good thing about catch rate over expected is that it's more nuanced as opposed to yes, no. It's, if it's a really, really, really difficult chance, there's still a small percentage you could have caught it and you didn't. So it's going to be negative, just slightly negative. So the negative 66.6 would point to presumably that they put a lot of responsibility on him. 2 of the 3, right? They don't specifically say that, but that's presumably what we're talking about here. I could have swore they had drops on here, but I guess I'm dreaming and drunk and stupid. For the season, though, he did have a catch rate over expected of positive 9.7%. But to your point of when it counts, you need to step up. There's that whole thing. Hopefully somewhere in there is an answer to your question. I don't know. But I'm going to get out of here. I got some meat on the grill. Got to go tend to that. But I will talk to you all after the game. Have a good one. Bye-bye.